Hey friends, what up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Mem Aleph, Daf 41 of Masechta Yevamos. Friends who could tell me what Daf 41? Oh, hey, how you doing there? That's my new thing. I gotta get the hang of it. That's my tribute to my grandfather. That's what he used to say. How you doing there? Yeah, it's very good. He was a very sweet man. Anyways, so Daf Mem Aleph of Masechta Yevamos. I'm sorry. 1 second. My mom's calling me. What's that, Mom? My mom wants to know if she should wish everybody a Chag Sameach. What do you guys want?
Well, they got no choice because they're not responding.
They don't have a choice because you didn't respond.
Chag Sameach, everybody from Yerushalayim. Nice to see everybody.
All right. Well, you guys got to respond quicker if you want to have a say in the matter.
Okay, Sroli, sushi or salad?
Okay, guys, maybe let's try it. Should I get sushi or salad? Obviously sushi. Wait, but where's it from?
Sushi right there by Nocturno. I'm getting a salad at Nocturno.
Oh, you're getting a salad at Nocturno. Well, this is complicated.
Tell me what sushi.
Wait, sushi takes too long. Wait, you're getting a salad.
So should I just pick something up for you at Nocturno?
Yeah, get the salad tuna mu'ushenet. Get the...
Salad tuna mu'ushenet?
Yeah, it's pretty
Whole
big.
Salad?
What?
Oh, that's miyashenet. Oh,
mu'ushenet. It's smoked tuna.
Ooh, salad? And it's enough for the two of us?
It will be.
Okay, shkoyach. Okay, see ya.
All right, see ya.
Bye, everybody. Chag kasher v'sameach.
All right, my mom says bye. All right, well, I guess we're gonna have dinner tonight. Well, okay. So, where were we? Okay, okie dokie. So, where were we? Okay, dinner. Right, Babylon Talmud. So, right, we're talking about Yevamos, and so we're talking about Reuven and Shimon and that kind of stuff. So that's like the first Amud, and then we talk about kind of like whatever. How long do you wait before doing Yibum and that kind of stuff? So interesting stuff, friends. Let's go weiter, and hopefully by the end of this, I'll have some dinner. Thanks everybody for your patience, but not thank you for your input. I need you to answer me quicker if you're gonna want to have a say in what I eat for dinner. Let's go weiter. So says the Mishnah, 3 lines into the page on Daf Mem Aleph. Hacholitz liyivimto v'noso ochiv v'sachosa v'meis choletzes v'lo misyabemes. Friends, what in the world? Okay, so you have Reuven. Reuven's married to Sarah, of course. Reuven dies. Hillel Esther. So, so Reuven dies, and then Shimon does chalitza with Sarah. Okay, fine. So now Sarah is a chalutza of Shimon, v'nasa achiv v'sachosa, and then Levi marries Sarah's sister Rivka. Okay, fine. Vames. Levi's dead. So now what happens? Shimon needs to do Yibum with Rivka. But Rivka is the sister of Sarah who he did chalitza with, i.e. achos chalutzaso, which we said yesterday. Right? Didn't we say yesterday? What did we say? Who also be'imo, ve'emimo, ve'emavio, ve'bito, v'vasbito, v'vasbeno, v'achosa. There you go. So we said in yesterday's Mishnah that you're not allowed to marry achos chalutzaso. So, choletzes v'lo misyabemes. So, Shimon does chalitza with Rivka. He does not do yibum with Rivka. Now, of course, we said yesterday also that achos chalutzaso is only midrabanan. So therefore, he's not potter, but he does chalitza. V'chein, and the Gemara is going to ask, why does it say and also? Because it's really a separate case. Hamagarish es ishto. If Reuven divorces, right, Reuven and Sarah get divorced, v'nasa achiv v'sachosa, and then Shimon marries Sarah. Okay, fine. No, wait. Shimon marries Rivka. Where am I? So Reuven and Sarah get divorced. And then Shimon marries Rivka, Sarah's sister Rivka. Vames. And then Shimon dies. How is a P'tura? So in this case it's Pater, right? So Reuven was married to Sarah, and they got divorced. Now, you're not allowed to marry the sister of your wife who, right, you and your wife get divorced, right? You can, right, you were married, if Reuven's married to Sarah, he can't marry Rivka as long as Sarah is alive. If Sarah dies, it's a different story. But as long as Sarah is alive, he can't marry Rivka. Now, Reuven's brother Shimon married Rivka. Shimon then died. So now Reuven and Sarah don't do, Reuven and Rivka do not do chalitza do not do anything, Yibum or chalitza, because Rivka is the sister of Sarah, who he was once married to. So it's achos grushoso, and therefore he is potter. Fine. So there's no Yibum or chalitza b'chlal. Shomeres Yavam. Shekidish achav v'sachosa. Okay. So Reuven is married to Sarah. Reuven dies. Hillel Esther. So Reuven dies. Now, Sarah and Shimon, or Levi, right? Sarah needs to do Yibum or Chalitza with Shimon or Levi, because there's Reuven, Shimon, and Levi in this case. Now, in the meantime, Levi is Mekadesh, Sarah's sister, Rivka. Okay? So, Shomeres Yavam, so you have Sarah. Sarah needs to do Yibum with either Shimon or Levi. Shekidesh achav v'sachosa. And now, Levi is Mekadesh, Rivka, Sarah's sister. They said the name of Rabbi ben Beseira Omrim lo hamten. So we say to Levi, hold your horses. Until your brother Shimon does, makes a move. Chalatzla, Achiv, if Shimon does Chalitza with Sarah, or Kansa, or Yibum with Sarah, okay, so Yichnos Esishto, Levi is now free to move forward with Rivka, and he can marry Rivka, right? Because of course, Kiddushin is engagement. He can now marry Rivka once right? Levi can now marry Rivka once Shimon has either done Yibum or Chalitza. Mesa, Yevamos. If Sarah dies, Yichnos Esishto, okay, so then there goes the Zika, and Levi can marry Rivka. Meis Yavam, but what if Shimon died? So Reuven had died. Sarah has a Zika with Shimon and with Levi. Now, in the meantime, Levi had gone ahead and was Mekadesh Rivka. Shimon dies. So now, on the one hand, Levi has done Kiddush, giving Kesef Kiddushin is giving Kesef Kiddushin to Rivka, but now there's a Zika with Sarah as well. So Yotzi Asishto beget, so he gives a get to Rivka, Ve'eshesachiv b'chalitza, and he does Chalitza with Sarah. Friends, says the Gemara, Mai v'chein. How come, right, the first case in the Mishnah was Achos Chalutzaso, where we said that you got to do Chalitza. The second case in the Mishnah was Achos Grushaso, where it's Potter, because it's an Erva. Why does it say V'chein, and similarly between those two cases? Those are two separate cases. One, you have to do Chalitza, the other, you're Potter. So why does it say V'chein, and similarly? That's what the Gemara wants to know. So Ema Aval HaMegarish. Say, but someone who's Megarish. So Kilu, in the first case you do Chalitza, but in the second case it would be Potter, because it's Achos Grushaso. Amr Rish Lakish says Rish Lakish Kanchana Rebbe. Here Rebbe taught Achos Grusha Midivrei Teire, Achos Chalutza Midivrei Seifrim. That we see from here that the sister of your ex-wife, who you're divorced from, is Asur Midaraisa, whereas the sister of somebody who you did Chalitza with is Asur Midarabanan, and you would still do Chalitza with that sister. Now continues the Gemara, Shomeres Yavam Shekidesh v'chulei. So this was talking, deep breaths. This was talking about the situation where you had Reuven was married to Sarah. Reuven dies. Now, Sarah needs to do Hillel Esther. So now Sarah needs to do Yibum or Chalitza. She has a Zika essentially with Shimon and Levi. Levi goes ahead and gives Kesef Kiddushin as Mekadesh, Sarah's sister Rivka. Now, says the Gemara, says Shmuel that the halacha is take like Rabbi ben Beseira, that we tell Levi, like, hold your horses, wait until you see what happens with, what happens with Shimon and Sarah. Check that out before you move ahead with Rivka. Ibailu, they ask a kasha. Mesa ishto mau bivimto. Friends, you hear the kasha? Ruvain married to Sarah. Ruvain dies. Sarah now has a zika with Shimon and Levi. Levi goes ahead and marries and gives is Mekadesh Rivka. Now, once he's Mekadesh Rivka, he's also to Sarah because he's engaged to Sarah's sister Rivka. What happens if Rivka dies? Nobody's done Yibum or Chalitza yet with Sarah. Levi was Mekadesh Rivka. Rivka dies. So Ma'abi Yevimto, can Levi do Yibum with Sarah now? When he was Mekadesh Rivka, so no, of course he could not do Yibum with Sarah. But Rivka's dead. Can you do Yibum with Sarah? Rav Reb Chanina Damitavayu Meisa Ishto Mutter B'Yivimto. So Rav and Reb Chanina say, sure. If Rivka died, he's obviously no longer engaged to Rivka, so he can do Yibum with Sarah. Shmuel and Ravasi Damitavayu Meisa Ishto also B'Yivimto. Where Shmuel and Ravasi say that if Rivka dies, he cannot do Yibum with Sarah. Amar Rav says, Rav, my time with the Rav. How come Rav says that how come Rav says that Levi would be allowed to do Yibum with Sarah after Rivka dies? Mishum da'avah Yevamos hutra. Well, because Rav would say this is an example of a Yevama, of Sarah, who was permitted to Levi initially. They could have done Yibum, V'nesra. But then when Levi was Mekadesh Sarah's sister Rivka, then he was no longer allowed to do Yibum with Sarah, since Sarah is the sister of Rivka, who he was Mekadesh. But Chazav V'hutra. But when Rivka dies, so then he becomes permitted again to Sarah. Tachzela Te'arishan, she goes back to her original permitted status, and therefore, says Rav, there's no problem with Rivka, with Levi doing Yibum with Sarah once Rivka has died. Masav Rav Hamnuna asks a kasha. You ready for Rav Hamnuna's kasha? Sure. Gimel Achin, 3 brothers, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Beis Nisuin, Beis Achayos. Reuven and Shimon are married to Sarah and Rivka. Sarah and Rivka are sisters. So you have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi. Reuven and Shimon are married to Sarah and Rivka, who are sisters. Ve'echad Mufne, Levi is a bachelor. Meis Echad Mibaile Achayos, Reuven dies. V'asa Mufne Maimer. Levi then does Maimer with Sarah. They don't do Yibum, but he does Maimer with Sarah. V'achakach Misochiv Hasheni, Shimon dies. So remember, when Reuven died, Levi was able to do Yibum with Sarah, because why not? So he does, and he did Maimer with Sarah Lamaisa, but they didn't do Yibum. Now, when Shimon dies, now all of a sudden, there's a Zika with both Sarah and Rivka and their sisters, which is problematic. V'achakach misa ishto acharev, but then Rivka dies. So now it's just back to the situation with Sarah. Rivka's dead. Osu Yevamos cholet says v'lo misya bemes. Says the Brisa that is it a Brisa or a Mishnah? I don't know. Let's see. Chavtes Amud Aleph. Oh gosh, I'm gonna lose my train of thought over here. Chavtes Amud Beis, Chavtes Amud Aleph. It looks like we're looking at a Mishnah over here. Alright, let's assume it's a Mishnah. What do you want me to tell you? So we say that Sarah does not, Shimon, who are we talking about? We're talking about, no, Levi. Levi does not do Yibum with Sarah. So remember, Reuven died, Levi was permitted to do Yibum with Sarah, he even did Maimer. Fine. Shimon died, now it's Sarah and Rivka, he hasn't done Yibum or Chalitza with either one, so he's Asr. He can't, he's going to have to do Chalitza with both of them. Now, when Rivka dies, now it's only Sarah again. And we say, nonetheless, Choletzes lo Yevamos, you do Chalitza and not Yibum. Ve'amai. But according to Rav, why? Taviki Yevamos Shutra V'Nesra V'Chazer V'Utra Tachzor L'Te'er Rishon. No, Rav, based on your perspective, based on your argument, it should be a situation of, let's read that again, Yevamo, Shehutra, Sarah, who was permitted to Levi, V'Nesra, but then she became Asura when Shimon died, and the Rivka also was a Zika, V'Chazer V'Utra, but then Sarah becomes permitted once again when Rivka dies, Tachzor L'Te'er Rishon, she should go back to the original permitted status, and Levi should be able to do Yibum with Sarah. Ishtik. Rav was silent. Now after Rav Hamnuna left, Rav says, Amailo Amri Le Reb Elazar. Why didn't I just simply say to Rav Hamnuna, oh, that Mishnah, that's the opinion of Reb Elazar. The Amr came and said, Omda Olav Shah Achaz Be'isr Nesra Olav Olamis. That, just caught myself before I cough. That Reb Elazar's opinion is that once somebody is Asr for one moment, since she's Asr forever, and therefore, yes, initially Sarah was permitted, but once Shimon died, and there's also Rivka, and Sarah now becomes Asura because she's the sister of Rivka, who also has a Zika. So Rabbi Elazar's opinion is that Sarah will never again be permitted to Levi. So Rav says, why didn't I just tell Rav Hamnuna, oh, that Mishnah, that's Rabbi Elazar's opinion. But I'm saying, but our Mishnah, where if Rivka dies, and Rav is saying that Levi is permitted to Sarah, that's the opinion of the rabbis, who say it would be permitted. Hadar Amar Amor the Amar Belazar Hechadlo Chazia Bishas Nefila. But then Rav says, I don't know about that. Maybe I'll say that when Rabbi Elazar says that somebody who's also can never be permitted, that is at the time that at the time that she became shaykh to Yibum, she was also at that point. Even if at a later point she becomes permitted, then she's still not allowed. But maybe in a situation like this, where Sarah was initially permitted, and then only when Shimon died, and Rivka also has a Zika, did she become Asr? Maybe Rabbi Elazar would say in that case that Taka Levi would be allowed to do Yibum with Sarah when Rivka dies. Right? So, and then Rav says, well, actually no, Rabbi Elazar would even say in that case, even in a situation where at the time that it was shaykh for Yibum, she was permitted and then became Asura and then became permitted again, even so, Rabbi Elazar would say that it's not allowed. But Tanya, as we learn in a Bryce, Rabbi Elazar Omer, right? So Rabbi Elazar would say it's not allowed even in that case. Says Rabbi Elazar, Mesa Yevimto Mutter Beishto, that right in the case described in our Mishnah, when you have Reuven's married to Sarah, Reuven dies, Shimon and Levi now have a Zika with Sarah, Levi goes ahead and is Mekadesh, Sarah's sister Rivke, and we say in that case that Mesa Yevimto, if Sarah dies, Mutter Beishto, Levi is permitted to marry Rivka, Mesa Ishto, but if Rivka dies, Osa Yevama Choletzes lo Yevamos, says Rabbi Elazar that Levi would do Yibum with Sarah, but not. Would do Chalitza with Sarah, but not do Yibum. So we see that Levi, that Rabbi Elazar is saying that even in the situation when Sarah was initially permitted, then she became a surah to Levi when Levi was Mekadesh Rivka, but then Rivka dies, and Rabbi Elazar is saying that still Levi should do Chalitza and not Yibum. So even in that case, it is Rabbi Elazar would say that it's Asr, even though initially Levi was permitted to Sarah. Lema Shmuel v'Rav Asi damik Rabbi Elazar. So let's say that Shmuel and Rav Asi are saying like Rabbi Elazar, right? What did Shmuel and Rav Asi say? Shmuel and Rav Asi said that in the case in our Mishnah, when Reuven dies and Shimon and Levi now have a Zika with Sarah, and then Levi goes and is Mekadesh Rivka, and then Rivka dies. So Shmuel and Rav Asi say that Levi is not allowed to do Yibum with Sarah. So that's just like Rabbi Elazar's opinion. So says the Gemara, Afilu Tema K'Rabbanon. No, Shmuel and Rav Asi could say that they are holding like the Rabbanon. Ad kan lo kamiflagi Rabbanon oleh de Rabbi Elazar, that the rabbis only argue on Rabbi Elazar. Eli mishum de minefila ve'elach lo mitzar alayu, because from nefila ve'elach she didn't become asur. Friends, what is the case? Who could tell me what's the case where Rabbi Elazar and the Chachamim argue? Rabbi Elazar and the Chachamim are arguing in, this is new material, in a situation where Reuven was married to Sarah. Reuven and Sarah then get divorced. Now, when Reuven and Sarah get divorced, Shimon is asur to Sarah because it's the divorcee of his brother. Now, when Reuven, and then they get remarried, right? But when they got divorced, Shimon was asur to Sarah. Now they get remarried, and then Reuven dies. Now at the time that Reuven died, they were married. So Rabbi Elazar says that they do not do yibum, because since at one point they were asur, right? Meaning once you were asur for one point, then you're asur forever. So Rabbi Elazar says that that's not allowed. Whereas the Chachamim say, no, you are able to do yibum, because at the time that Reuven died, they were married. And at that point, it was okay. And additionally, at that point, she never became asur. Right? So now, Shmuel and Rav Asi want to argue that the Rabbanan would say that in that case, when Reuven got divorced and Sarah got divorced and then remarried, the Chacham said Shimon is permitted to Sarah, because from the time that Reuven died and onwards, they were never asur from that point, right? They were married at the time that Reuven died, and she never became asur. But Shmuel and Rav Asi would argue that in this case, where Reuven died, Shimon and Levi both had a zika with Sarah. Levi goes ahead and is Mekadesh Rivke, at which point Sarah becomes asur. So even the Shmuel and Rav Asi would say that even the rabbis would admit that, since at a point post death of Reuven she becomes asur, the rabbis would say that that would not be allowed. But here where Sarah becomes asur, when Levi is Mekadesh Rivke, even they would admit that you cannot, Levi cannot do yibum with Sarah even after Rivke dies. Alright, friends, new Mishnah. Yevamos lo sachlotz v'lo tisyabim ad sheyesh la shlosha chodashim. You hear that, friends? When Reuven dies, right? So Reuven dies, Shimon needs to do yibum with Sarah. So when Reuven dies, Yevamos lo sachlotz v'lo tisyabim. So this is interesting, that all this yibum and chalitza that we've been talking about for the past 40 days, friends, can you imagine? We're a third of the way through Masechta Yevamos. Friends, it's unbelievable. Anyways, so all this yibum and chalitza stuff, 3 months. You wait 3 months after the death of Reuven. So Yevamo lo tachlotz v'sesabim, she doesn't do chalitza, she doesn't do yibum ad sheyesh la shlosha chodashim, she has to wait 3 months. V'chein kol shar hanoshim, also all other women who get divorced or widowed, lo yisarsu v'lo yinasu achu lo in shlosha chodashim, should not get engaged or married until after 3 months. Echad besulis v'echad beulis, whether these are virgins, whether these are women who are not virgins. Echad grushis v'echad almonis, whether they're divorced, whether they're widowed. Echad nesuas v'echad arusis, whether from nisuin, whether from erisin, right, engagement or marriage. Rabbi Yehuda Omer nesuas yisarsu v'arusis yinasu. Rabbi Yehuda says, look, if they were married, and then we have to be concerned that maybe they're pregnant from the first husband, or we have to wait 3 months just to make sure so that we know who the pregnancy is from. So says Rabbi Yehuda, look, hanesuas yisarsu, that if they were married and therefore there's a possibility that they're pregnant, so they could still get engaged. They're not going to live together, but they can get engaged, just don't get married. V'harusis yinasu. Now, if they were only engaged, right, and they became a widow from engagement, well, the assumption is that they weren't sleeping together at that point, so then she's definitely not pregnant, and therefore she can even get married within 3 months. Chutz min harusa shebeYehuda mipnei shlibo gaspa. Rabbi Yehuda says, however, that in Yehuda, in Judah, in the area of Eretz Yisrael, Judah, so in Yehuda, the engaged people would be miyachid. They would have yichud even before the wedding, and therefore there is a possibility that maybe they did sleep with each other, and therefore, so the engaged women in Yehuda might actually be pregnant, so therefore they cannot get married for the first 3 months after they separate, either through death or divorce. Fine. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says Rabbi Yehuda kol anoshim yisarsu. Rabbi Yossi Omer says Rabbi Yossi kol anoshim yisarsu chutz min almoneh. Anybody can get engaged, just not a widow mipnei ibul, because she's supposed to be sad that her husband died, so she shouldn't be running along and getting engaged so quickly. So now, fragt die Gemara b'shlamelo tisyabim shemiyeh avolod ben kayam v'kapogo beiser eishes och deiraise. Friends, you hear the kasha? The kasha is, I understand Yibum. I understand why Ruvain dies, Shimon waits 3 months to do Yibum with Sarah. Because what happens if Sarah is pregnant with Ruvain's baby? And it's a healthy baby, which means that Ruvain has progeny. Which means that in that case, then Shimon should not be with Sarah, right? Because it's Eishes Och, and therefore we're getting involved in Erva territory. But Chalitza, what's the problem? Why can't Shimon just do Chalitza right after the Shiva, just get it out of the way, do Chalitza and be done with it? What's the problem there? So again, says the Gemara, B'shlamelo tisyabim. I understand why Shimon would not do Yibum within 3 months. Shemayeh avolod ben kayoma, because what if Sarah is pregnant with a healthy baby? V'kapoga, right? In which case, Ruvain had progeny, and therefore there's no reason to be doing Yibum. And Shimon sleeping with Sarah would be a violation of Eishes Och, right? V'kapoga b'isur Eishes Och deiraise. So I understand why Yibum could be problematic. Ela lo sachlo tzamai. But why can't Shimon just simply do Chalitza within 3 months? Who cares? So we want to say, it sounds like maybe this is a kasha on Rabbi Yochanan. The Rabbi Yochanan said that the Chalitza of a Me'uber, right, at the beginning of the parak, Acholitz Livimto, right? So at the beginning of the parak, Rabbi Yochanan, there's a machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan said that a fellow who does Chalitza with a pregnant woman, it's still a good Chalitza. But over here we're saying you cannot do Chalitza within the first 3 months. It sounds like, well, because doing Chalitza with a pregnant woman apparently would be problematic and not work. To which the Gemara asks, well, leave Rabbi Yochanan alone. Didn't we already, at the beginning of the parak, right, we brought a brisa in support of Rish Lakish. It was a kasha of Rabbi Yochanan, and we listed this example as one of 3 examples where we passing like Rish Lakish. So we already asked the kasha of Rabbi Yochanan, leave him alone. Why do you have to bring a kasha from here? So, well, let's say that this is also a kasha, and if somehow you can wiggle your way out of the other brisa, well, there's also this one. Go, what are you going to do about this one now? So, no, don't ask the kasha on Rabbi Yochanan from here. Hocha hainu taima. This is the reason why we say don't do chalitza within the first 3 months. Shema yehi volod ben kayoma, because, well, what if Sarah is pregnant with a healthy baby of Reuven's? Now, when Shimon, right, so therefore, if Sarah is pregnant with a healthy child from a healthy baby from Reuven, so then Memele Reuven has progeny, and therefore there's no reason for Yibum or Chalitza, which means that the Chalitza that Shimon did with Sarah was pointless and really made no difference, and the nafkamina being that Sarah can now marry a Kohen, right? A Chalutza cannot marry a Kohen, but this wasn't actually Chalitza because she, right, Reuven had progeny, and therefore there was no need for Chalitza, and therefore it was an extraneous Chalitza. It was irrelevant. So, excuse me, and now you're going to have to make a whole announcement, to say that she's allowed to marry a Kohen. Okay, so make the announcement, who cares? So, well, but what if there was somebody who was at the Chalitza right? He was looking for an activity that day, and he went to watch the chalitza, but that's more interesting than watching an announcement. So he witnessed the chalitza, he didn't witness the announcement. So, and these people are going to assume, the parientis, and they're going to assume that Sarah is not allowed to marry Kohanim because of the chalitza. So we want to avoid that situation. Now, affect the Gemara, okay, fine. So, great. In that situation, yeah, we have to be concerned about maybe they're going to think that she's not allowed to marry a Kohen. But let me ask you a kasha. What if, before Sarah married Reuven, she was married to somebody else, and they got divorced? And therefore, Sarah is a divorcee, and a divorcee is not allowed to marry a Kohen anyways. So, what if Sarah is a divorcee who then married Reuven? Reuven dies. Let Shimon do chalitza with Sarah right away, and there's no concern about, well, what about Kohanim? She can't marry a Kohen anyway. She's a divorcee. So mishum de mafsidla. So where am I? So tinachamona grusha ma'ikelim. So mishum de mafsidla mizonis. Well, there's another thing at play over here, which is mizonis. That within the first 3 months after Reuven dies, so then she can continue to be sustained from his estate. And if Shimon does chalitza with Sarah, so then she can no longer be sustained from his estate. And therefore, in order to preserve that, we don't do chalitza. So that's all fine and good. If Reuven and Sarah were married, that's where there's this ksuba, and that she'll be sustained from the estate. But what if they were only engaged? In which case the ksuba doesn't kick in. So what if Sarah is a divorcee? So the whole Kohen thing is irrelevant. Also, she was only engaged to Reuven, so therefore there's no ksuba. So why not simply allow Shimon to do yibum with Sarah within the first, to do chalitza with Sarah within the first 3 months? Who cares? Selim Shum de Biosi. So the reason why Shimon and Sarah do not do chalitza within the first 3 months is because of Rabbi Yossi. The Tanya's within an advice of Maisi there was a story with a certain fellow who came before Rabbi Yossi Omerle, and he says to Rabbi Yossi, Ma'ulachlotz b'soch gimel, can I do chalitza, or what's the halacha regarding doing chalitza within the first 3 months after Reuven dies? Omerle lo sachlotz, says Rabbi Yossi, don't do it. V'sachlotz u'mabachach, wait, why not do it? Who cares? Kara olav mikra zeh, so Rabbi Yossi says, well, there's this pasuk im lo yachpotz, right? If Shimon doesn't want to marry Sarah, hayim chafetz yabem. But if you want to do, if Shimon wants to do yibum with Sarah, so then do yibum. Kala ola liyibum ola lechalitza v'chulei. From which we learn out that there is a correlation between yibum and chalitza. That if you can, in a situation where you do yibum, you do chalitza. In a situation where you don't do yibum, you don't do chalitza. And therefore, since within the first 3 months you're not doing yibum out of concern of erva, so if you're not doing yibum during the first 3 months, so memele you don't do chalitza then either. Mosiv Rav Chinina, now Rav Chinina asks the kasha sveikis choltzis v'lo misyabim. It says that in a situation of sveikis, of we'll have to explain what this sveikis is, but they do chalitza and they don't do yibum. We had just said a second ago that in any situation where you don't do yibum, you don't do chalitza. Yet, what are we saying? Choltzos v'lo misyabim. You don't do yibum, yet you do chalitza. My sveikis, what exactly is this suffix, this uncertain situation? Ilema suffix kiddushin. If it's suffix kiddushin, what does that mean? Reuven threw some money to Sarah, and it's unclear if it was closer to him or closer to her, so we're not sure if Reuven is married to Sarah or not. And if we want to say, in that case, when Reuven dies, Shimon does chalitza but not yibum, amai lo misyabmos. Why can't Shimon do yibum with Sarah? Let him do yibum. Who cares? Meaning, if Reuven was married to Sarah, so he's doing yibum with Sarah. If Reuven was not married to Sarah, so he's now Shimon's married Sarah. Like, who cares? So elalav sofik shekidesh achas mishtei achayos ve'en yodei ezu me'en kidesh. No, so rather the suffix is that Reuven was Mekadesh, one of 2 sisters, and he doesn't know which sister he was Mekadesh. So therefore, V'katoni choletzes, and you're saying that we do chalitza, right? Because you can't do yibum with either sister, because let's say he does yibum with Sarah, but really Reuven was mekadesh Rivka, so then he's being with the Achos Zekuka. So therefore, it's right. So therefore, Shimon is unable to do yibum, but he does chalitza. So we have a situation where there's no yibum, but there is chalitza. So awesome, yeah, but that's because over there, if Eliyahu Hanavi would come and say, look, brother, really, Reuven was mekadesh sorry, bas chalitza v'yibum here. So okay, there you go. And well, if you have Eliyahu Hanavi to tell you which of the two sisters was the one that was married to Reuven, well then Shimon can go ahead and do yibum. So even though yes, right now Shimon cannot do yibum because he doesn't know which one Reuven is mekadesh, but theoretically, if he has a way of knowing, such as Eliyahu Hanavi would say it was this one, so you would be able to do yibum, you would be able to do chalitza with that one. Whereas hacha, in this case, in the case of Pashit Reuven dies, right? Our Mishnah, Reuven dies, Shimon needs to do yibum or chalitza. So in that case, there really is no, right? It says, Im Yavu Eliyahu v'yomar dehalo i'abra, even if Eliyahu Hanavi would come and say, look, I'm telling you, Sarah is not pregnant. Would that make any difference? Would we now do yibum? Even a katana who is not capable of getting pregnant, still you would wait 3 months. And therefore, the 3-month thing over here by yibum isn't necessarily about the facts on the ground. It is what it is. And therefore, since you're not doing yibum for 3 months, you're also not doing chalitza for 3 months, and that's a low plug, and it doesn't change. And that is why, if you're not doing yibum for the first 3 months, you don't do chalitza for the first 3 months either. Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught Yevamos shlosha chodashim harishon mizonos mishal baal. So for the first 3 months, Sarah is supported from the estate of Reuven. After 3 months, she will not be sustained, right? Meaning if no yibum or chalitza has happened, I guess if no yibum has happened, so then, meaning after 3 months, she's no longer sustained from Reuven's estate. And if Shimon does yibum with her, so then Shimon is now married to her, and so then there's that arrangement between her husband Shimon and her. But but if they don't do yibum, so then she's not supported by her husband anymore, by Reuven or by Shimon. Omad bedin uvarach. What if Shimon just runs away, and he didn't do yibum, he didn't do chalitza, just ran away? Nizonis mishal Yevamos. So then Shimon is responsible to support her. Nafla lifnei Yevim kain. What if Reuven dies and Shimon is a minor? So miyavam leisla. So Shimon is not supporting her. Mibal mai. What about from the husband? So pligi bar Ravacha v'Ravina. Charomer isla v'charomer leisla. So it's machlokas Ravacha and Ravina. One opinion is that she will continue to be supported from the husband, right from Reuven, v'charomer leisla, and the other opinion is that she doesn't get anything. V'chsa leisla mishmai kansua. And the halacha is that she doesn't get anything because it's just like from, I guess, heaven is finding her for some reason, meaning she was dealt a difficult hand over here, right? Her husband dies, her yavam, right? Her husband's brother is a minor. She's basically kind of stuck, and that's that. Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbi said, Yevamos shechotzu la'achim b'soch shlosha. So if Shimon does chalitza with Sarah within the first 3 months after Reuven dies, she nonetheless has to wait till the end of 3 months before she can get married to somebody else. The Achagimel, if chalitza happens, after 3 months they do chalitza, ein tzrich lamtin gimel chodashim, she's now immediately permitted to get married to whoever she wants. Have Hagimel Chodashim Shamu Mishas Misas Habal. So we see that these 3 months are from the time that the husband dies. Right, from the time that the husband dies, you wait 3 months, you do chalitza, and then she can get married immediately. V'lo Mishas Chalitzas Hayavam. Right, so it's 3 months from the time that Reuven dies, not from the time of chalitza. Ma'ishnami get. Why is this different than a bill of divorce? The Rav Amar Mishas Nisina Ushmuel Amar Mishas Ksiva. That Rav says that by a bill of divorce, it's 3 months from the time that the get is given, whereas Shmuel says it's from the time that it's written. Amar Rave Kavachomer Isukaris Itata Isulav Lo Kol Shekain. Well, says Rave, if you think about it, after 3 months, Shimon can do Yibum with Sarah, which is permitting Eishes Ach, which is an erva, and it's permitted in the context of Yibum. Certainly then, if there was Chalitza, she'd be able to just, go out and marry some other person. So that's how we know that after 3 months, when there's Chalitza, she can then go and get married. Friends, that was Daf Mem Aleph of Masechta Yevamos. We learned 2 Mishnayos on Daf Mem Aleph. The first one was different situations about Reuven and Shimon and Levi, about when there's Achos Chalutzoso, Achos Grushoso. Then we had this interesting situation, right, where Reuven dies and then Levi marries, gives Mekadesh Rivke, and then the Gemara asks, what happens in a situation where Rivke then dies? Is Levi permitted to Sarah? We saw machlokes between Rav and Rav Chanina on the one hand, and Shmuel and Rav Asi on the other hand. Rav and Rav Chanina say that it's permitted to marry Sarah, whereas Shmuel and Rav Asi say that Levi would not be permitted to marry Sarah. We then got to a new Mishnah where we talked about why you have to wait 3 months before Yibum, of course, because we have to be concerned about Isser Eishazach, but also just to do Chalitza, and we said that that's because in any situation where you don't do Yibum, you also don't do Chalitza. So that is why you don't do that. But after 3 months, you can do Chalitza, and then she can get married right away. Friends, that was Daf Mem Aleph of Masechta Yevamos. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.